Hello, I'm Kat, and welcome back to the free-to-play review. So today's topic is going to be the latest iteration of the summon pool, specifically the Ogryn summon pool. And as we talked about, hinted at in yesterday's free-to-play review of the Fallen Path, this is where that free Prism Shard will go towards if you were to claim it for this particular session. So the Ogryn tribes is the faction of their selection this time, which of course means that the Halo champion is the faction unity champion from the Ogryn tribes, which is Vizig the Nauseous, who honestly is a pretty decent champion if you happen to get him, but he's also not like a very super necessary champion. But I definitely think he shines mostly in PvE environments with the debuff extension on the A3, but more importantly the poisons and HP burn here, double poison rather, in HP burn, and then the activation of either of both rather on the A1 AoE on both of the, or I guess on all abilities, AoE on all of his abilities. So it's again super solid champion, but you're not going to be hurting if you don't have him. But if you do have him, he's surely to be helpful at the very least in faction wars, but in all restrictive content really, so to speak. But yeah, Ogryn tribes, like I talked about in yesterday's video, underwhelming faction overall, unfortunately, but there are a couple of good ones here. You know, I think Korrigar Deathbell is okay. He's just kind of a support. He's definitely annoying as an enemy wave person because he's a big cleanse, lots of healing, ally protection, which leads to counterattacks, which lets him heal himself when he takes damage. Gerptuk is famous for the block buffs and the damage amplification on his passive. I think Blizzard the Howler's underrated fusion from Christmas a few years back, but AoE freeze, decreased turn meter, super solid. I use him for Fire Knight because he has a triple hitter A1 that can freeze, kind of like a super Crowden or mini Newt, and then he also has increased defense, which is good for faultless defense after they change to that, after the changes to that blessing. So he's really good in like Curse City Fire Knight stages, even if you don't book him. Stock the Broken, super fun champion. Poison, AoE poisons, and then poison activation slash burn activations granted a single tick. And then Kraz Wallbreaker is okay. He's a mini Nishak, but Nishak is kind of better in terms of bomb capacity champions, but he is useful for the Ogryn tribe specific trial and hard mode faction wars where you need to kill enemies with bombs. I think 10 of them specifically. So he definitely carried me in that faction for that trial. The rest of them are kind of nukers. I've heard that Grugtha hits pretty darn hard. She's got an AoE on all of her abilities, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so she hits okay from what I've heard. She gives herself shatter, extra turn ability, which is kind of cool if she kills someone. First Axe Tuskor is a kind of like a mini Rotos going on there because it's a lot of attacks, but he gets a synergizes with extra turns, especially if he kills people, so he can just kind of go on a roll if he starts Mogging. And then Moto of the Peel is kind of meh. One of his abilities hits kind of hard, but the other one doesn't, and he's just kind of okay. But again, if you needed pure DPS for the faction, he could be decent. But again, overall, this is probably not the summon pool that I would be going all out for, just to say, the champions are okay, but Ogryn Tribes just happens to be one of the weaker factions in the game overall. So I think most people are not going to be incentivized to go for the summon pool. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about where you can get the free, or re-talk about where you can get the free summon here. And in terms of the epics, there's only 8, so it's a really relatively small pool, but also it kind of echoes how many champions are in the faction. And realistically, the only one to kind of highlight is just Ugo. AoE decreased defense, block buffs, and the leech on the A1 with the heal and potential for a revive. Super solid champion, great for anywhere you need her. Block buffs is useful in almost every area of the game, especially as you start to progress into the mid game, into late game, but good in Hydra, good in Chimera, good in Faction Wars, good in the Curse City, good in Doom Tower, etc. So she's really, really solid across the board. Universal support, really solid. One of my favorite epics in the game. And then it's kind of a step down from there, unfortunately. Siege Hulk is okay. He's kind of a nuker debuffer, hybrid utility nuker, I guess I could say. Claude is decent if you need kind of increased speed, increased accuracy to kind of help your team land debuffs if you're struggling, more of an early game champion. Thinking like Frost Spider, you can't get the accuracy requirement to place the burn to kill the spider, so he might come into play there. And then you have 2 hero reduction champions. So Lauren the Cutter here has it on the A2, and then Old Gruckus has it on the A3. But these are kind of like your Amius champions, or someone to help you place your reduction if you're struggling with it in the Grim Forest. But yeah, epics are mostly underwhelming, aside from maybe Ugo is kind of the shining star, and then the legendaries are also underwhelming. So again, probably not the most enticing summon pool in this regard, unfortunately. So this is going to cost you the standard amount, the 40 fragments to summon one single shard, and the odds are, as we'd expect, 6% chance to get legendary, i.e. basically a sacred shard, 94% chance to get an epic. And as I always like to highlight, 94% chance means there's a 19 out of 20 chance that you're going to walk away with an epic if you go for an air quotes free summon. Obviously, if you pull more, you're more likely overall to get a legendary just because of numerics. But if you're just doing the one and done, you're most likely to walk away with an epic, so don't be surprised if that is your outcome. In terms of the free summon, as I hinted at a few times, there is the Fallen Path, which again, if you want a deep dive into the details of that, I talked about that in yesterday's video. I'll also put that in the card up above here on the upper right hand side and at the end card of the video, just in case you really do want to go check it out. But I'm not going to rehash all of the juicy stuff here at the bottom, but the Prism Shard is fairly accessible. It's close to the top. It's only worth 12,750 points. However, in terms of this event, which of course is a Soul Rush / Dungeon Divers, if you wanted to do this with Soul Stones, it would be 128 mortals, 9 immortals, or 2 eternals if you wanted to just straight up do it with souls. Or if you wanted to farm dungeons, because you do have, it's a 3-day long event, you do have some time to farm up some free points. You can see here I already have 3,000 points out of 12,000. I'm probably not going to get there, but I'll see if I want to push to get there. I'm definitely not feeling it just based on how I was describing the pool, but it could be a good thing in the future for me to bank it and save it for the next summon pool, whatever that may be. But anyways, by my rough calculations, you're going to need somewhere between like 6,000 to 8,000, 10,000 energy, depending on the stage you're farming and how efficient it is in terms of coins per energy. But yeah, it's up there. You need a lot of energy to be able to get 12,000 points, even just exclusively from Dungeon Divers credit or Gear Hunters credit. So it's still costly regardless, but nonetheless, it is definitely feasible if you're focusing. I think one of my viewers said he was like, trying to dump a bunch of energy into the event dungeon right before it ends, which definitely is a thing that you could do if you really want to try and get the last bit of hit point before it closes for the next 6 months or so. That could be a good reason to kind of just dump some gems and dump some gems in energy or energy in general, just to try and get that out. And the byproduct of that is you walk away with the Prism Shard. But you could also do that just to get credit in general in the Fallen Path. But stuff like that are things you could consider doing. Obviously, the fusion's going on right now, so if you're farming Ice Golem, you're going to be getting some credit from that just by running that dungeon. You're going to get some credit there. So there are ways to farm it up if you really wanted to go there. But of course, if you wanted to do it quickly, then you could definitely use Soul Stones instead. So yeah, in terms of a formal recommendation from the free-to-play perspective, again, if you're willing to spend the energy and you're enticed by the champions in the pool, you could definitely go for it. But as I mentioned, you could also just save that summon for the next summon pool and hope that the champion selection is better. That's probably the most recommended thing I could say, unless you're just really itching to get a faction unity champion or a chance at getting a faction unity champion, or you're really enticed by some of these past fusions that you just happen to have not been around for, or one of these nukers that maybe is of interest. But for the average player, I would say if you're going to go for the free summon, then just save it for the next summon pool and hope that the champion selection is a lot better. All right, so that's going to do it for the free-to-play review for the Ogryn summon pool. Let me know what your plans are relative to this iteration of the summon pool in the comment section down below. I'm keen to see where you guys stand relative to how expensive or how relatively expensive it is to get the air quotes free summon from the path versus the quality of the champions. Is this something that is enticing to you? Are you itching for you got a Trunda ready for a grip tuck and that's the last piece of the puzzle for you? Or are you similarly relatively underwhelmed by the selection of the champions just because it is Ogryn tribes? As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit the like button down below. It really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit the subscribe button down below as well, if and only if you're enjoying the content overall on this channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching and have a good one.